right now, I want to talk about a few different breadcrumbs. And the first one is from FSCO, Fresh Supply Company. This is one that I think is at the top of a lot of people's minds in the ecosystem, just because it's a supply chain use case. The real buzz is about, the fact that they were at one point using MasterCard's Providence product. MasterCard sunsetted that product. So they chose now to migrate to Hedera, and they're bringing the MasterCard integration into Hedera. So theoretically, with this use case going live and the tooling that they bring to the ecosystem, it'll be possible to record, essentially like MasterCard transactions for supply chain settlement to Hedera. So it's very, very exciting. And the question for this use case for a lot of people has been, is this going to be a subsidized use case? Because I know that we've got Atma.io that's doing, 1,500 transactions per second, which is great, but it's subsidized, so it's not generating revenue for the network. But then we see this tweet from David, who's the CEO of FSCO. He says, "I'm about to buy all of your HBAR. I need cheap gas. Got plenty of transactions that'll need it." So basically what we're seeing here is the CEO of this use case indicating clearly that they're going to be paying for these transactions. And then the next question is, of course, how many transactions are there going to be? And we'll kind of have to see. But it is very exciting. And I do have to say that having a use case like this with leadership that's this engaged in the community is kind of refreshing. Like this is definitely a enterprise use case, and it's kind of fresh to see someone in leadership, the CEO of the company, degenning on social media and participating in the Hedera community a little directly. It's very, very cool. So props to David. I've had him on the show a bit. I'd love to have him back. So David, if you're watching, I'd love to have you back on the show. There's also this post that was published on the 15th on Monday. I don't think this was like new stuff. I think this was kind of just like recycled information, but very cool nonetheless. Fresh Supply Co. moves from MasterCard to Hedera for real world asset tokenizations and agri-food. Like this headline right here, we need more of this. These words, right? These buzzwords are great. And basically the article here, the quick summary is, Fresh Supply has transitioned from the now defunct MasterCard Providence private blockchain to the Hedera network. Boom. This move aims to address the traditional opacity in the agri-food value chain by tokenizing assets such as transformation of raw materials to finished products. Right. So that's what this use case is all about, is like all these ingredients get combined into new products, all these different types of things. Very, very exciting stuff. And the other thing is, it feels like this is alive, right? There's been a ton of different enterprise use cases. Shout out to HBAR in here. How you doing? There's been a ton of different use cases like the Coupon Bureau and different things that have kind of like died off a little bit. We talk about coupons on the show, and whenever there's kind of like an update or change in the project, we talk about it, but not a whole lot going on. So I think that it's great to see, use cases like FSCO that are building on Hedera and that are active. Like we talk, like it comes down to the fact that the CEO is interacting with people in the Hedera ecosystem. It's from an enterprise use case standpoint, maybe not that important, but I do think that it is very interesting. Let's look at some other breadcrumbs here. This was one that was interesting. I already talked about this on the show, but I just wanted to highlight it again, really quick. And actually, I don't know if I talked about this on the show. I think actually, you know what? This was one of those things that I didn't have a chance to get to last episode. So this is very interesting. This was published, I believe, the day after or the day of that Deloitte was announced that they were launching their use case on Hedera, which we talked about on the last episode. Very exciting stuff. Again, another to be announced or to be put live enterprise use case from Big Four accounting and professional services firm, Deloitte. So big stuff. But when you dive a little deeper, and this is, when I love the Hedera subreddit, when we dive a little deeper, this post, and I encourage people to go check it out, but this post basically just recaps some of the existing connections, some of the existing tentacles that Deloitte has into the Hedera ecosystem already. So Deloitte is obviously, this is the one that we were talking about, their new environmental and social impact program, right? And they call out Hedera specifically in it. So this was kind of the big news. But when we continue, right, we've got Deloitte on the ServiceNow website. ServiceNow, obviously, being a governing council member. Then we've got ServiceNow and the Now platform on the Hedera website, which is, very cool. There's Hitachi and NVIDIA on AI. There's the Dell Native Edge accelerating things. So all of these different little connections and connectors are starting to emerge. And when you expand just a little bit beyond Deloitte and you start going further, like so many different things are starting to pile on. And another one of these things is the DTCC use case that we've already talked about on the show. And this is basically about the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. They're charged with, automating and processing, clearing statements of major financial transactions in the United States. They process over $2.5 quadrillion worth of securities every year. And this is a post regarding, securrency, which we talked about, open crowd, virtual power exchange, all these different types of things. So again, they mentioned the March episode that I had about the, Q3 monster use case or whatever. So it's posts like this that really kind of get you interested in the enterprise side of things. And I know that we've been told over and over again that, enterprise takes a long time, but we're starting to see not only signs of things going live, we're starting to see actual use cases going live. And also we're starting to see the actual connections forming between different organizations. Because as we know, often these types of enterprises will work together. And to me, that's the most exciting part. And this goes back a long ways away. Like you can even think back of like how often you would see the Microsoft logo on different Hedera use case websites, for example, MTech, right? So many of these massive Fortune 500s, all of the different little connection points and touch points they have with Hedera, those are all increasing. And does it mean that we're going to have some massive watershed moment this year? I don't know, right? I mean, the anonymous source that I spoke with, or that I spoke about on the show, last week, and then also originally in the March episode 118, says that we're going to have a quote unquote monster use case in quarter three. That source also kind of predicted the BlackRock stuff. So all to say is, what's the likelihood of there not being a massive, like, is it, if I were to say I don't think you could say there's no chance that there won't be some kind of massive enterprise use case that goes live this year. I don't think you can say that. I also don't think you can say that it's a sure thing, but we've heard publicly, right, leadership, folks like Rob Allen on Shark Bites and Lehman and Mance and everybody, and folks at, Eric Puccini at Swirls Labs, like all these different types of things about this next half of the year being important and potentially being very active and big. So it does get you thinking. And for me, you know, it really comes down to what's actually happening on the hash graph. And this brings us to our next thing. And again, reminder, if you're watching, share, more the merrier. Leave a comment with your story.